Tell me, how long are you going to let something external take control of your inner state, your calm, your peace of mind? A cold stare, a rude comment, a delay that drags on, and your heart goes to war. You say, "They made me lose my cool." But the truth is, you handed them the key. Calm isn't shattered from the outside, it's abandoned from within. Today I'm going to show you how Stoicism can help you bring your mind under control. In this video, you'll discover how to stay calm, even in the middle of the fire. This isn't about pretending nothing affects you. It's about learning how to hold yourself up when the world tries to push you over the edge. Today, you'll learn what to do when someone's trying to push your buttons, how to breathe when tension rises, and how to find your center again, even after you've lost it. Serenity isn't luck. And it's not a gift, it's a decision. One you train, strengthen, and protect like an inner treasure. My friend, today you reprogram your mind so that calm never leaves you. Whether you're stuck in traffic, at work, or listening to me while meditating, stay until the end. Because what I'm about to share with you changes you from the inside. So your reality can finally start to change on the outside too. But before we begin, if you find value in this kind of video, subscribe so they keep showing up on your YouTube homepage every day, and we can keep moving forward together. Let's begin. Now tell me something. How many times a day do you let others decide how you feel? How many times do you give your calm away to anyone who crosses your path? If that question stings a little, subscribe and become an exclusive member to keep learning how to shield your mind and take back control of your peace. And tell me in the comments, what robs your calm the most? Or simply write, Stoic at heart. From today on, only I govern my inner world. Lesson 1. The emotion you hide becomes noise. While we pretend to be calm so we don't make anyone uncomfortable, Epictetus preferred discomfort if it meant gaining inner freedom. He used to say, "It's not what you feel that harms you. It's the judgment you place on what you feel." He didn't run from fear or sadness. He observed them until he understood them. He didn't mask them or bury them beneath a "I'm fine." He knew that what you don't face stays with you, and what stays with you eventually takes control. But let me ask you something. What do you do when your boss says something unfair in front of everyone? You smile, nod, swallow hard, and say, "It's nothing," even though something inside is burning. Or when someone you care about disappoints you and you pretend it's okay because you don't want drama. That calm you're showing isn't serenity, it's suppression. And suppression, held in for too long, turns into internal noise that won't shut off. Over time, that noise shows up as anxiety, insomnia, or that emotional fatigue you can't quite explain. Emotions are like smoke alarms. If you turn them off without finding the fire, the house can still burn down. Anxiety doesn't come out of nowhere. It builds up from silenced emotions that finally scream when they can't be ignored anymore. And the strange thing is, we think controlling emotions means not feeling them. We pretend nothing's wrong when really we're just stockpiling. Every "I don't want to talk about it," every automatic "I'm fine," is another spark inside. Epictetus wouldn't have called that control. He would have called it self-deception. For him, inner freedom didn't come from avoiding emotions, but from facing them truthfully. If he felt fear, he acknowledged it. If he felt anger, he observed it. Because only what you name can be transformed. The rest keeps spinning inside, like a storm with no exit. Susan David, a psychologist from Harvard, shared a story that captures this with brutal clarity. Her father died when she was 14, and for weeks, she acted like everything was fine. She didn't cry, didn't talk, smiled at school as if nothing had happened. Until one day, a teacher handed her a blank sheet of paper and said, "Write what you don't dare say out loud." That day, she discovered that writing about her pain didn't break her. It helped put her back together. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't hiding how you feel, it's allowing yourself to feel it. And that's something we forget way too often. We're taught to think before we speak, but not to feel before we react. We're told be strong, But no one explains that real strength is looking inward without fear. When you suppress your emotions, all you do is give more power to what you're trying to avoid. That emotion doesn't disappear, it just changes form. It becomes tension in your body, looping thoughts, constant irritability, or a sadness you can't name. If you feel an emotion hurting you, don't try to distract yourself. Pause, name it, don't say I'm not okay, and say, I feel frustrated because they didn't listen to me. Don't say it doesn't matter and say, what they said hurt. Naming what you feel is how you set boundaries for chaos. And if you need a physical reminder, place a hand over your chest. Not to calm yourself, but to remind yourself that your body is asking to be heard too. The Stoics knew this. What you understand, you can master. What you deny ends up mastering you. They weren't trying to erase emotions. They were trying to understand their message. Because behind anger, there's a wound. Behind fear, a need for safety. Behind sadness, a longing for connection. When you learn to recognize that, you no longer get lost in the noise. You start translating it. My friend, hiding what you feel doesn't make you stronger. It makes you more fragile. Because no one can hold back what they refuse to face forever. The moment you allow yourself to feel without judgment, you stop being a prisoner of your mind. And that's what we're aiming for here. To recover the calm and inner freedom you lost trying to keep it all under control. So next time you feel like you're holding something in just to avoid seeming weak, remember this. What you don't express stays living inside you. Don't let your body pay the price for what your voice won't say. The emotions you hide don't disappear. They turn into noise, into exhaustion, into anxiety. But when you look at them without fear, they stop screaming and start guiding you. Lesson 2. Reprogram your reactions. Picture this. You're at your usual cafe, and the moment you spot the waiter, the one who once forgot your order and, on top of that, when you reminded him, replied with a bored, "Well, you'll have to wait, I'm busy." You feel your jaw clench. Your back tightens, your shoulders rise, and even though he hasn't even looked at you yet, you've already ruined your coffee. The anger takes over before you even sit down. But what if today you did something different? Instead of giving him the usual cold stare, you smile, greet him with a sincere, "Good morning," and even dare to ask how he's doing. In that moment, you notice something strange. The tension wasn't coming from him. It was coming from you. It was your mind reacting automatically, following a script that no longer serves you. And to make this clearer, let me tell you about an interesting experiment. At Duke University, they gathered several people and made them smell something really unpleasant while showing them pictures of different faces. Afterwards, even when the faces were neutral or smiling, their brains still rejected them. Why? Because the mind learns to associate quickly. But it can also unlearn. If you can train yourself to react with rejection or anger to something as silly as a bad smell, you can also reprogram that response so it no longer robs you of your calm or your inner peace. Seneca already knew this centuries ago and summed it up like this: "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." What he meant was, when emotion pushes you to react, you can choose to wait, cool your head, and respond from a different place. If your mind has learned to jump like a spring at certain people or situations, it can also learn to stay steady and calm. That's real strength. Teaching your body and your mind that they don't have to dance to the rhythm of chaos. My friend, if you feel your emotions rule you, listen closely. First, write them down. Take a piece of paper and jot down in just a few words what you feel when someone gets under your skin. Seeing it outside your head already takes away its power and helps you understand it better. Then, start changing the story you tell yourself. Stop assuming the other person is doing it to hurt you. Most of the time, people act from their own chaos, not from a plan to ruin your day. That way, little by little, you stop being a victim of your own mental movies. In the meantime, breathe. Yes, it sounds simple, but it works. When you feel your blood boil, stop. Straighten your back, lower your shoulders, and take a deep breath. That pause is gold. It lets you watch what's happening as if you were looking at a scene through a window, without throwing yourself into the storm. And finally, don't forget to focus on something bigger. When you have a clear purpose and something that truly matters, the little provocations lose their power. It's like looking at a map. The pebbles on the path stop looking like mountains when you know where you're headed. So now you know, reprogramming your reactions doesn't mean erasing your emotions. It means writing a new script where you are the master of your calm. And every time you choose not to react automatically, you become a little more master of yourself and a little less a slave to what happens outside. Lesson 3. Not everything is about you. Yes, my friend, you heard that right. Not everything is about you. Even if it's hard to admit, even if your ego kicks and screams and insists that every gesture and every glance is directed at you, the truth is much simpler. People are rarely thinking about you. And though that may sting at first, it's actually a huge relief. Because there are days when it feels like you're wearing a satellite dish on your head, scanning the room, catching every whisper, every laugh in the distance, convinced you're the star of the gossip. You walk down the street and someone frowns and you already think, "What did I do?" But let me tell you something. The world does not revolve around you. And thank goodness. Because when you let go of that idea that everything has to do with you, you also let go of tons of anxiety. You free yourself from that exhausting paranoia of thinking every comment, every gesture, every silence is a judgment about you. You finally understand that everyone else is too busy with their own chaos to be organizing one just for you. And I know, it's not easy. Imagine you're at the gym. You're doing squats, focused on not falling, and out of the corner of your eye, you see two people in the corner laughing while looking your way. You feel heat rising up your back, your hands tightening around the bar, and your mind starts writing a script. Are they laughing at me? Is it my shirt, the way I'm doing the exercise? In a matter of seconds, boom, your anxiety skyrockets. You've already convinced yourself you're the joke of the day, and of course you ruin the set because you can't think about anything else. But what you don't know is that those two were just talking about a TikTok video of a salsa dancing cat that had nothing to do with you. Think about what Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations. Remove the opinion and you remove the I am harmed. Remove the I am harmed and the harm itself disappears. Because more often than not, it's not what happens outside, it's how you interpret it that hurts you. When you believe everything is aimed at you, you end up reacting to ghosts. People act from their own fears, worries, and wounds. Most of the time they don't even see you. They're too busy wrestling with their own chaos to be plotting against you. And if you really can't stop overthinking, if you feel you need to know exactly what they thought of you to sleep in peace, let me tell you, what you're telling yourself is just that, a story. Brené Brown, author and speaker, calls it exactly that, the story I'm telling myself. Because we're experts at inventing scripts where we're the villain or the laughingstock. You know what I mean? Someone doesn't reply to your message and you're sure they hate you. Or they yawn while you're talking and you're convinced they're bored with you. But reality is usually much simpler. They hadn't even noticed you. They were thinking about their own stuff, trapped in their own movie with their own fears and problems. So next time you feel that satellite dish scanning for signals, turn down the volume and breathe. Not everything you see is about you. Remember, the movie other people are living doesn't have to cast you as the villain. If you're in doubt and you trust them, just ask directly, "Hey, was that because of something I did?" Most of the time they'll tell you it has nothing to do with you, and you can move on in peace. And if you don't feel comfortable asking, drop the drama and get back to your squats. Focus on what really depends on you, because everything else is just noise. Remember, not everything is about you, and not everything deserves your energy. The moment you stop believing you're the center of everyone's attention, you'll feel a calm open up in your mind and your anxiety will dissolve. And that, my friend, is when you finally start keeping calm and living light, master of your own peace. Lesson 4. Walk until your mind surrenders. They say that when Epictetus was still a slave, he couldn't choose where to go. but he could choose how to move within his own cage. He would walk in circles, observing, breathing, measuring every step as if each one helped him reclaim a piece of his freedom. And in a way, it did. Because even though almost everything had been taken from him, he still had the one thing no one could steal: how he responded to what he couldn't control. He didn't walk to escape. He walked to remind himself that as long as his body could move, his spirit was still free. Epictetus didn't speak of sitting around and philosophizing. He spoke of action. He said that freedom and happiness begin when you understand what's within your control. And movement is always within your control. Not to run from your problems, but to break the mental loop that's keeping you trapped. Because when your mind won't stop spinning, your body can be the way out. When anxiety fills your head, the mind becomes like a hamster in a wheel, spinning fast, but going nowhere. Walking is opening the cage. It's telling your body, move, even if you don't know where you're going. And with each step, the noise starts to settle, the thoughts line up, and the tension begins to loosen. You don't need to escape the problem. You just need to stop spinning in place. Psychologist Kelly McGonigal discovered that walking activates the part of the brain that regulates emotions. You don't need to run marathons or climb mountains. Just 10 minutes of intentional movement is enough for the body to tell the brain, we're safe. That single physical signal changes everything. Your heart rate drops, your mind unwinds, and suddenly, what felt unbearable doesn't seem quite as heavy. Picture this. You're at home, chest tight, heart racing, head full of thoughts that won't quit. You try to reason with yourself, distract yourself, convince yourself that everything's fine. But nothing works. Anxiety starts to creep in, and you feel like you're losing control. The worst thing you can do in that moment is stay still. Put your shoes on and get outside. Walk. No music, no headphones, no phone. Just you, your steps, and the sound of your breath. After 10 minutes, you won't have solved your life, but you will have shifted your mental state. Movement reminds the anxious brain of something it tends to forget. You're still here. You're still moving forward. Marcus Aurelius, walking through the chaos of war and the weight of power, found clarity in those quiet walks. It wasn't escaping duty, it was how he returned to himself. While others looked for control in noise, he found it in movement. Because moving, even just a little, is a form of resistance without violence. Walking is meditation without the pressure. You don't need incense or mantras, just the sound of your footsteps keeping a rhythm your body recognizes as safe. Each step anchors you to the present, and in that presence, your mind stops looking backward or forward. It stays here, where life is actually happening. We often think we need answers to calm anxiety, when really we just need space. Space for the body to release what the mind is holding on to. When you walk, the scenery shifts, and with it, so does your perspective. What felt like a wall at home becomes a wider, softer path. Make this a small ritual, not a task but a truce with yourself. When your head is racing faster than your body, pause and move. Don't wait to feel motivated, just start. Because movement isn't the result of calm, it's the cause of it. My friend, every step you take is a way of telling your mind, you're not in charge anymore. Sometimes the body is wiser than thought. Let it lead. Walking doesn't erase your problems, but it changes their size. It puts them into perspective. And with every step, even a small one, fear shrinks. When anxiety starts to choke you, don't analyze it. Don't argue with it. Walk. Walk until the noise gets tired. Because when the body moves, the mind, sooner or later, surrenders. And in that quiet moment, without even realizing it, you reclaim something you thought you'd lost. Your calm, your clarity, and that deep inner freedom no one can take away. And tell me, have you ever gone on a walk just to calm your mind? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Share your experience, Varn, or simply write, I walk until my mind surrenders. Lesson 5. Good or bad, you decide. Not long ago, a friend of mine missed his flight because he overslept. He arrived at the airport red with rage, slamming his hands on the counter, cursing his luck, almost yelling at the attendant. His eyes blazing, he kept saying it was the worst day of his life, that nothing ever went right. He spent quite a while pacing around the terminal like a volcano about to erupt. A few hours later, while he sat at the airport restaurant, his coffee cold and his gaze empty, he heard on the news that his flight had suffered a serious mechanical failure and passengers had to be evacuated in an emergency. In that moment, he froze, the cup halfway to his mouth as if someone had extinguished the fire inside him. He lowered his shoulders, sighed, and murmured to himself, "So, was it really bad? And tell me, my friend, how many times has something like that happened to you? Imagine tomorrow your boss calls you into the office and tells you you're fired. Your heart drops to your feet, and you think it's the worst moment of your life. But a few weeks later you find a better job, one you wouldn't even have looked for if you hadn't been fired. Or you start your own business and discover you've never been so happy or so free. So, was it really bad? Or was it the push you needed? The other day I read something by the macro wizard, and it made me smile because it was so simple and true. He said something like, if there's no reason to feel good, then there's no reason to feel bad either. And it's true. Your mood doesn't depend so much on what happens outside as on how you interpret it. If you decide to see it as a catastrophe, it will be. If you choose to see it as an opportunity, it will be. For the Stoics, this idea that nothing is good or bad in itself wasn't just a nice phrase for a poster. It was a daily practice, almost a mental workout. Marcus Aurelius, for example, started each morning with a kind of dress rehearsal for what might go wrong. He told himself he would surely meet someone ungrateful, rude, envious, unjust that day, and that none of it had to steal his peace. That way, when the offense or bad news came, he wasn't surprised. He was already prepared to see it for what it was, neutral, and then he could choose his reaction. So the next time something shakes you, ask yourself, what would a Stoic think about this? Would he see it as good or bad? Just that already shifts your perspective, because it forces you to step out of the drama and look calmly. But careful, it's not enough to understand this in your head. You have to train it, like any muscle. So here's a little practical exercise, simple but powerful, that I practice myself. The good or bad journal. Every night at the end of the day, take a notebook and write down 2 situations that annoyed or frustrated you. Maybe a coworker interrupted you in a meeting. Maybe someone arrived late and made you wait. Maybe a proposal was rejected. Whatever it is, write what you felt in that moment and what story you told yourself about it. Then, in the next column, write what possible lesson or benefit that situation might be hiding, no matter how small. Maybe the interruption forced you to explain yourself more clearly. Maybe the wait gave you 5 minutes of quiet you wouldn't have had. Maybe the rejection saved you from a commitment that wasn't right for you. And don't get frustrated if at first you don't see anything positive. As Marcus Aurelius said, loss is nothing but change, and change is nature's delight. Sometimes the lesson takes time to appear, but just looking for it is already reprogramming your mind to stop reacting as a victim and start acting as the master of yourself. Finally, whenever you think something bad is happening to you, repeat this phrase in your mind. This story isn't over yet, because it's not. The ending might turn out completely different from what you imagine now. Little by little, you train your eyes to see beyond the surface, to stop labeling things as good or bad right away, and let life surprise you with its wisdom. Because in the end, things are like clay. You can see it as dirt, or as the material to shape something new. 6th lesson. Accept that you can't avoid pain, but you can avoid suffering. There's something no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to understand. Pain is inevitable. You'll be late and miss an opportunity. Someone will disappoint you. You'll get sick. You'll lose people you love. You'll fail at things that matter to you. You can't avoid that. It's part of being human. But suffering, my friend, that is optional. And that's the difference that changes everything. Pain is what happens to you. Suffering is what you do with it. Pain is the blow. Suffering is reliving that blow over and over again, adding stories to it, dramatizing it, turning it into your identity. The Stoics understood this with brutal clarity. Epictetus, who lived as a slave before becoming a philosopher, put it like this: "It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." In today's language, it's not what happened to you that breaks you. It's the story you tell yourself about what happened. Think about it. 2 people lose their job on the same day. One collapses, tells themselves, "I'm a failure. I'll never amount to anything. My life is over," and they stay there stuck, replaying the loss for months. The other feels the blow too. It hurts. They allow themselves to feel the frustration, but then they say, "This is hard, but it doesn't define me. I can find something else. I can reinvent myself." Both felt the pain, but only one chose the suffering. And that, my friend, is what makes the difference between staying trapped in chaos or reclaiming your calm. Marcus Aurelius lived this constantly. As emperor of Rome, he lost children. He faced betrayals. He watched his empire fall apart. The pain was real. But in his meditations, he wrote something that should be carved in stone. "You can cut out my tongue, but you can't stop my mind from being free." Because he understood that even though he couldn't avoid pain, he could choose not to drown in it. So how do you stop turning every pain into lifelong suffering? First, let yourself feel. Don't repress. Don't pretend it doesn't hurt. Don't tell yourself you're weak for feeling it. Feel it. Cry if you need to cry. Scream if you need to scream. Because pain that doesn't get expressed gets stuck and turns into chronic suffering. Then, set a time limit. It's okay to feel the hit, but it's not okay to live there forever. Give yourself a window, a day, a week, whatever you need. But draw the line, because if you don't, the suffering becomes your new normal, and you start to identify with it. "I'm someone this happened to" turns into "I am what happened to me." And here's something crucial. Separate the facts from the story. The fact is, I lost my job. The story is, I'm a failure. The fact is, my partner left me. The story is, I'll never find love again. When you manage to separate the two, you realize the fact hurts, but it's the story that destroys you. And unlike the facts, you can change the story. The Stoics practiced this constantly. They asked themselves, what here is real and what is just my interpretation? Because most suffering doesn't come from what happened. It comes from what we add on top of it. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps, expressed it in a way that cuts deep. Everything can be taken from a person, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. He couldn't escape the pain of being there, but he could choose not to turn it into total despair. And so can you. When something hurts, when life hits you hard, don't punish yourself for feeling it, but don't build an altar to your suffering either. Feel the pain, accept it, then choose, consciously, not to let it become your identity. Because, my friend, every time you manage to separate pain from suffering, every time you accept what happened without sinking into it, you reclaim your power, and you take one step closer to that secret of never losing your calm, with nothing and with no one. Lesson 7. Without direction, the mind sinks. Seneca used to say that no wind is favorable to someone who doesn't know where they're going, and he was right. Because when your direction is clear, even bad weather can push you forward. But if you don't know what you're doing with your time, even the smallest setback can pull you under. The same happens with the mind. If it doesn't have a direction, it starts spinning in circles. It gets tangled in thoughts, in fears, in endless what-ifs that go nowhere. And little by little, without realizing it, you end up exhausted, without having done anything truly meaningful. Imagine getting on a boat with no map, no course, no compass. The sea isn't to blame for your seasickness. You just don't know where you're headed. That's what anxiety feels like when you live without structure. It's not that you have too many problems. It's that your mind has nothing to hold on to. The day turns into a current pulling you from one thing to the next, and you keep reacting to everything without knowing what you're actually trying to build. You spend your time putting out fires, without realizing you're the one holding the torch. Seneca lived surrounded by political chaos, betrayal, and power. And even with all of that, he made space for daily reflection, for silence, for writing. That wasn't a coincidence. It was his way of reminding himself that even if he couldn't control the emperor or fate, he could control his inner direction. That was his true wisdom, understanding that order isn't a prison, it's a form of freedom. People often confuse order with rigidity, but in reality, order is an anchor. A simple routine, even just making your bed, preparing your coffee in silence, or going for a walk, is like dropping anchor in the middle of the sea. It doesn't stop the waves, but it keeps you from drifting. When there's something stable in your day, no matter how small, your mind finds a fixed point. And that point, my friend, can be the difference between a day that drags you and one that holds you. We live in a time where everything pushes you the other way. Notifications tell you what to look at, other people tell you what to want, and all the noise steals every moment of silence. In that context, having direction isn't a luxury. It's survival. If you don't choose where to go, someone else will choose for you. And there's no worse feeling than looking back and realizing you've been running in circles. Think about the days when you wake up without knowing what to do. You jump from your phone to email, from email to the fridge, from the fridge to your thoughts. And that's where you get stuck, paralyzed. Anxiety grows because there's no structure to contain it. But when you wake up with a clear intention, even a small one, everything shifts. Your mind knows where to look, and that gives it calm. You don't have to plan out every hour or fill your calendar. Just make 3 small decisions you can stick to, even on the hard days. 3, not 30. It could be opening the window as soon as you wake up, writing down one phrase to focus you, or taking a 5-minute walk before looking at a screen. Those gestures are quiet reminders that you're steering the direction, not your anxiety. There's a story I love about the explorer Ernest Shackleton. When his ship got stuck in the Antarctic ice for months, the crew could have fallen apart. But Shackleton established a routine, set schedules, assigned tasks, meals at the same time each day. That bit of order kept everyone sane. They weren't any less lost, but they were more grounded, and that saved their lives. Your day can be just as unpredictable as an expedition through ice, but as long as you have a clear direction, chaos can't rule you. Order reminds you that even if you can't control the conditions, you can control your next step. Remember, calm doesn't come from having everything under control. It comes from knowing where you're going. You don't need to control the day. You just need to begin it with purpose. Because when your direction is steady, anxiety has nowhere to enter. And when you choose that direction each morning, even if the sea gets rough, you're still holding the wheel. Lesson 8. Return to what's essential. Do you know one of the most subtle ways to lose your peace? It's not stress, it's not chaos, it's accumulation. That mountain of tiny, seemingly insignificant things you keep accepting without realizing it. Until one day you wake up exhausted without having done anything that actually matters. Tell me this. How many times have you reached the end of the day with the feeling that you didn't stop for a second, but still didn't do anything for yourself? How many times have you been busy all day but never really present in what truly matters? Because there's a huge difference between being busy and being focused, between filling your day with activity and filling it with purpose. And most people live in the first, without realizing they're sacrificing the second. Your day becomes an endless list of favors, requests, other people's emergencies, the neighbor who needs help with something, the coworker who asks for just a second of your time, the family member who always has a crisis, and you say yes, again and again. Because saying no feels selfish, because you were taught that being a good person means being available to everyone. But no one ever taught you that being available to everyone means being unavailable to yourself, that filling your life with everyone else's urgencies empties it of what's essential to you. The Stoics knew this. Musonius Rufus, Epictetus's teacher, spent his final years in the countryside. He lived with the bare minimum, grew his own food, taught philosophy outdoors. And when someone asked why he'd chosen such a simple life, he said something that should be etched in the mind of anyone feeling overwhelmed. What's essential never weighs you down. While others chased possessions, commitments, and obligations, he slept peacefully, knowing his calm didn't depend on anything superficial. He'd learned something most people never do, that peace isn't found by adding more, but by removing everything that doesn't matter. Seneca said it clearly. Happiness lies in focusing on what's important. Because if you don't choose your priorities, the world will choose them for you. And the world, my friend, has no interest in your happiness. The world just wants you to keep producing, keep responding, keep being available. Greg McKeown, author of Essentialism, learned this the hard way. He spent years saying yes to everything, every request, every favor, every commitment, until one day he collapsed, literally. He ended up in the hospital from total burnout. And there, in that hospital bed, he realized something critical. Not doing the unnecessary isn't laziness, it's survival, it's strategy. It's the only way to protect what truly matters, because no one is going to protect your peace for you. No one's going to say, "Hey, I think you've done enough today, go rest." On the contrary, people will keep asking, keep expecting, keep assuming you have endless time and infinite energy. So what do you do when your life feels like an endless checklist of other people's needs? First, do a brutal audit of your time. Take a piece of paper and write down everything you did yesterday, from the moment you woke up to the moment you went to bed. Then highlight only 3 things that truly mattered. Just 3. The ones that made you feel good, the ones that brought you closer to who you want to be, the ones that gave you peace. You'll notice something uncomfortable. Most of your day was spent on things that don't matter to you. Next, identify your automatic yeses. Those moments when you say yes without thinking. Because it's easier. Because you don't want to seem rude. Because you're afraid of conflict. Then decide, consciously, that the next time you'll say no. No elaborate excuses, no made-up reasons, just, "I can't." And if they insist, you repeat, "Really, I can't." At first it'll feel strange, uncomfortable, like you're being selfish. But you're not. You're being intentional. You're choosing to protect your energy instead of giving it away to anyone who asks for it. And something crucial, give yourself time for nothing. Yes, nothing. 1 hour a day where you do absolutely nothing productive. You don't answer messages. You don't help anyone. You don't meet any expectations. You just are. Read, walk. Sit in silence. Whatever, but it's your time. Non-negotiable. Because the world has convinced you that every minute must be productive, that you always have to be doing something. But the Stoics knew that rest isn't laziness. It's a recharge. It's how your body and mind prepare for what really matters. Marcus Aurelius, with the weight of an empire on his shoulders, made sure to carve out moments of solitude. Moments when no one could ask him for anything. When he could think, reflect, return to himself. Because he knew that if he didn't protect that time, the empire would devour him alive. And you don't have an empire, but you do have a life. And that life is being devoured minute by commitments you never truly chose. So ask yourself, with brutal honesty, what are you carrying that's not essential? What commitments could you drop without losing anything important? What yeses could become nos without the world falling apart? Because I promise you, the world won't fall apart. It'll keep turning. People will find other ways to solve their problems. And you'll get back something you forgot you had. Your time, your energy, your peace. The Stoics didn't accumulate. They simplified. They didn't pile on more obligations. They stripped away everything that wasn't essential. Because they understood that freedom isn't in having more options. It's in needing fewer things. And every time you choose to hold on only to what's essential, every time you protect your time like it's your life, you're telling the world, "I'm in charge here. My peace is not up for negotiation. My time is not for sale. And in that moment, you begin to reclaim something most people have lost, the feeling that you own your life again, and you take one more step toward that secret of never losing your calm, with nothing and with no one. Ninth lesson, your brain thinks you're in danger. Have you ever felt your voice trembling and your hands going cold just because someone takes a little too long to reply? Or when someone cuts in line at the supermarket and, instead of reacting, you just freeze, your face burning and your heart racing? Or that car horn in traffic that makes you grip the wheel like your life depends on it? My friend, that's not you. It's your brain, which believes you've just been kicked out of the tribe and are about to die alone in the jungle. That's why it reacts as if a tiger were lurking nearby, even though all you're facing is a notification on your phone or a boss who hasn't answered you yet. Inside, your body sets off all the alarms, because your limbic system doesn't know the difference between a roar on the savannah and a "we'll talk later" in an office. To it, both mean danger. Epictetus explained it centuries before neuroscientists gave it a name. He said, "We are not affected by what happens but by how we interpret it." He was so clear on this that, even as a slave, he didn't let himself get carried away by fear or rage. He lived with a calm that today would seem impossible. Just imagine Epictetus receiving a "we'll talk later" in the year 60. He'd probably raise an eyebrow and say, "That's not up to me," while calmly continuing to write on his tablet. But you don't react like Epictetus, at least not yet. You're still in that office staring at the screen, remembering you sent the report with a little joke at the end. 2 hours have passed and your boss looks at you seriously and without any emotion drops, "We'll talk later." In your head, you've already rewritten your resume, imagined yourself explaining to your parents that you've been fired and even selling bracelets on a beach to survive. Your hands sweat, your stomach twists, your throat dries up and you can barely keep typing. If you're ready to change, to stop reacting as if the world were full of lions, to start keeping calm and teaching your brain that there are no mortal threats in the office, there's something you can do. To start, when you notice your palms sweating and your mind running a marathon, quietly say to yourself, "This is not a real threat." And if you need to, write it on a post-it and stick it to your screen. Then give what you're feeling a precise name. Psychologist Ethan Kross explains this very well. When you name and contextualize your emotions, you reduce their intensity. That helps you master your mind and emotions so that nothing and no one can steal your calm or control your inner peace. What can you say? For example, "I'm afraid of losing my partner," or "I'm nervous right now because I have an interview." And finally, act exactly the opposite of what your impulse demands. If you feel like sending a second email full of apologies or panicking, don't. Get up, go get some water, breathe, and come back to your desk with a smile. Even if there's still an entire zoo inside you, on the outside you're showing that you're the one holding the reins. Because every time you choose to respond with serenity instead of reacting with fear, you're teaching your brain a lesson it will never forget, that you're no longer a slave to your impulses, and little by little, that turns you into someone capable of mastering their mind and emotions, so nothing and no one can steal your calm or rule over your peace. That's where your true freedom begins. Lesson 10. Learn to let go in time. They say that in Japan, the monks of Aihaiji Temple began every morning with the same task, sweeping the dry leaves from the garden. It didn't matter if the wind blew hard and new leaves fell as they worked. They did it in silence one after another, until not a leaf was left in sight. One day, one of the youngest monks, exhausted and frustrated, stopped halfway through his task, dropped the broom, and asked the master, "What's the point? Tomorrow it'll just look the same. Even now more leaves are falling. Why bother cleaning?" The master, unfazed, smiled at him and said, "Because someone who doesn't know when to put down the broom also doesn't know when to put down his sorrow. Today the garden is clean. Tomorrow Han will be another story." And there it is, the lesson so many forget. That monk, just like you, believed calm would come when no more leaves fell. that he'd finally rest when everything was perfect and finished for good. But my friend, that day never comes. The leaves will always fall. But this isn't really about leaves or brooms. It's about you, about everything you keep sweeping, carrying, clinging to, even though it no longer serves any purpose. Do you see it? You're still holding on to what no longer belongs to you. Every night you open Instagram as if it were some altar to the past. You scroll through your ex's pictures over and over, looking for signs, answers, something to bring you peace. You wonder why they blocked you, who they're with, what they did after. And you do it with your heart clenched, eyes burning, mind spinning until 3 in the morning. What you don't see is that this little quiet habit is stealing your sleep and your energy to meet someone new, to look at yourself in the mirror with dignity. Clinging to what no longer serves you is like owning an old car that won't start. Yet you wash it every Sunday, convinced that someday, magically, the engine will roar back to life. Meanwhile, the years pass, and you're still tied to something that no longer takes you anywhere. And look, Seneca didn't have a car, but he understood perfectly the importance of letting go. That's why he said, bluntly, "Much of human suffering comes from resisting the facts." And he was right. You don't suffer because of what happened. You suffer because you won't accept that it already happened. Because you won't accept that the other person chose to leave, that chapter closed, that the leaves will fall again tomorrow no matter how hard you sweep today. That's what keeps you chained. Not what was, but your insistence on holding it. But my friend, it's time you learn to let go, to take back the only thing that matters, your peace. Here's a good challenge for you. Today, identify that rope you're still gripping even though it's cutting into your hands. Don't play dumb, you know what it is. Maybe it's that resentment you've carried for years toward your father, or that silly fight with your brother that nobody's willing to close, or that relationship that neither ends nor begins but still keeps you tied. Write it down on paper clearly, like you're naming a monster. And this isn't about pretending it doesn't hurt or hiding it. No, because that's like sweeping the trash under the rug. Sooner or later it stinks and trips you up. So be honest with yourself. Say it out loud if you have to. Yes, this hurt me. Yes, it's still hard, but it doesn't define me. And today, I start letting it go. Then accept it. There are things you can't change. And time, my friend, is your ally, not your enemy. The Stoics knew this well. That's why Marcus Aurelius said that time smooths even the hardest stones. Give your emotions some space, but don't hand them the keys to your house. And if it helps, add a little humor. When you catch yourself opening Instagram again or texting someone who's already gone, look in the mirror and say, "Here I am again, watering my dead cactus." You'll see even the sadness eases a bit. And remember this, letting go isn't a magic button. It's a process. Be patient with yourself. Treat yourself like you'd treat a good friend who just isn't ready yet. Buy yourself flowers even if you don't feel you deserve them. Give yourself permission to feel without blaming yourself for taking your time. And if it helps, count the days you've managed not to look back and celebrate them as little victories. Here's a secret I don't share with many people, but I'll leave it here for you. The sooner you put down the broom, the sooner you'll feel lighter again. Not because the leaves stop falling, but because you stop fighting them. Lesson 11. Learn to stop in time. Picture this. You're in the waiting room at the doctor's office on a Thursday afternoon. You've been waiting for over an hour, and your appointment should have been 40 minutes ago. Your kid calls, asking if you'll make it in time to pick him up from school. You promise you will, but deep down, you're not so sure. Suddenly, a woman bursts through the main door, speaks loudly to the receptionist, and walks straight into the consultation room without waiting in line. No one says a word. You look around, searching for someone who shares your frustration, but everyone's staring down at their phones. At first, you try to justify it. Maybe it's an emergency. But then she walks out 5 minutes later laughing, prescription in hand, waving goodbye like nothing happened. And something lights up inside you. Your chest tightens. Your hands start to tremble, your jaw clenches, and that voice, that damn inner voice, starts shouting, "Stand up! Say something, don't let her walk all over you." It's like someone lit a fuse and now you can't put it out. The heat climbs up your neck, your temples start to pound, and you feel like if you don't do something right now, you're going to explode. Your breathing gets faster, your fingers drum against the armrest, and in your head, you're already rehearsing the perfect speech, the one that'll leave her speechless, the one that'll make everyone in the room silently cheer for you. But right before you stand up, before those words come flying out of your mouth like bullets, I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself, how would Marcus Aurelius have handled this? Picture him, emperor of Rome, surrounded by traitors, flatterers, and schemers stepping over him every day. Do you think he blew up every time someone disrespected him? He probably would have closed his eyes for a moment, breathed slowly, and reminded himself, the world doesn't move according to my wishes. Getting angry about it only enslaves me, because Marcus Aurelius understood something vital that you and I often forget. In that tiny space between what happens to you and how you react, there lies all your freedom. You can choose to burn like gunpowder or stay still like stone. You can let that woman rob you of your peace, or you can remember that your calm is not for sale. Ah, my friend, I know what you're thinking. Sure, sounds nice in theory, but in the moment, it's impossible. And I get it. Because in that moment, with your blood boiling, self-control feels like a fantasy. But let me tell you something that completely changed my perspective. Lisa Feldman Barrett, a world-renowned neuroscientist, discovered something fascinating. She found that when you insert just a 2 or 3 second pause before reacting, your brain chemistry shifts. The adrenaline that was already gearing up for battle starts to fade. The parts of your brain responsible for rational thinking come back online. It's like that pause acts as an emergency brake that stops the train before it crashes. We're not talking about suppressing what you feel. We're talking about giving yourself a moment to choose how to respond. Because reacting is instinctive, automatic, animal. But responding? That's human. That's conscious. That's powerful. It's in that tiny space, in those seconds of inner silence, where you decide who you are. That's where you choose whether to be a slave to your impulses or the master of your destiny. So, do you want to try it? Here's the first step. When you feel like you're about to explode, count to 5. But don't do it like a robot. Do it with intention, with awareness. 1, turn your head away, break eye contact. 2, take a deep breath, fill your lungs like it's the last breath on earth. 3, ask yourself silently, will this really matter tomorrow? 4, feel your shoulders start to drop, your body beginning to understand there's no real threat. And 5, now decide clearly whether it's worth speaking, or if your energy is better saved for something that truly matters. That count isn't some magic trick, it's a lifeline. And it works even when everything inside you is screaming not to hold back, to say what you think, to let it all out. Now the second step, change your physical posture. Yeah, it sounds simple, almost silly, but it works. Drop your shoulders like you're taking off a heavy coat. Let your hands fall open, rest them on something solid. The edge of a table, the steering wheel, the back of a chair. That tiny action sends a direct message to your nervous system. We're safe. We can relax. And when your body calms down, your mind follows. It's like you're telling the primitive part of your brain, false alarm. There's no lion here. And finally, repeat this in your head like a mantra. This moment doesn't define me. Say it while looking out the window, while sipping some water, while breathing. Because when you repeat it, you strip the moment of its power. You tell the world, you don't decide how I feel. I do that internal shift invisible to everyone else, is what separates those who lash out on instinct from those who respond with calm. Learning to stop in time won't just save you from pointless arguments and awkward regrets. It will give you something far more valuable. The sense that you are in charge of your life. That no one, absolutely no one, can take your peace from you unless you hand it over. You become someone who doesn't get pulled into every cheap provocation. Because, my friend, every time you choose to stop in time, you're building an invisible wall around your calm. And every time you breathe before you speak, you take one step closer to the secret of never losing your calm again, with nothing and with no one. Lesson 12. Let everyone follow their own path. Have you ever watched how a butterfly tries to get out of its cocoon? It looks weak, moves slowly, struggles to make space, and you feel like helping it, tearing the cocoon with your fingers so it can get out faster. But if you do, you destroy it. Because that struggle is exactly what strengthens its wings. My friend, the same happens with people. Everyone needs their own time to unfold their wings, and sometimes what does the most harm is not staying quiet, but sticking your hands in where you shouldn't with impatience and rush disguised as help. Put yourself in this situation. Your best friend is dating someone who's no good for him. You know it, you can see it clearly, and it drives you crazy that he doesn't. You've already told him 1,000 times that this relationship is sinking him. One afternoon, after yet another argument, he looks at you with cold eyes and says, "Leave it." I know what I'm doing. You just stand there, heart-burning, stomach twisted, that bitter feeling of helplessness swirling in your head as you walk home alone. That night, you catch yourself wondering if maybe you've been pushing his cocoon before it's ready. If your need for him to change isn't stronger than his need to learn on his own. And if you think about it, Marcus Aurelius already said it. Accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people whom fate brings you, but do so with all your heart. He wasn't just talking about accepting the world when it suits us, but also about accepting the processes of others, even when they drive us mad. In his life, it's said he had to endure stubborn generals and advisors who made bad decisions over and over. And instead of yelling or forcing them, he chose patience, example, presence. Because he understood that calm is not about resignation, it's about choosing not to be dragged by anyone else's haste. Jay Acunzo, creator of the podcast Unthinkable, puts it brilliantly. True influence happens when the other person feels respected, not pressured. Pressure creates resistance. Respect opens space for someone to listen. It's like watering a seed. You can pour water on it, but you can't pull on the stem to make it grow faster. So, my friend, next time you see someone making a mistake, breathe and remember, it's not your battle. If you want to help, lead by example without lectures, like someone who lights a candle in the dark and waits for the other to choose to look at it. Listen without interrupting, even if your blood is boiling inside, and let them feel that. When they're finally ready to take a step, you'll be there. And in the meantime, tend to your own garden, keep your composure, and let them bloom at their own pace. Even if the path they choose looks like the clumsiest in the world to you, in the end, keeping calm also means letting go of the need to control other people's timing. Let everyone follow their own path, because wings that unfold by choice are the only ones that truly know how to fly. Lesson 13. Master your anger before you speak. Anger is like a fire in a kitchen. It starts with a spark, spreads in seconds, and before you know it, boom, it's already burned everything down. In those moments, my friend, the only thing that matters is whether you know how to shut off the valve before the flames consume you. And I'm sure something like this has happened to you before. You're in the family WhatsApp group and suddenly your cousin writes, "Of course, as always, you only show up when there's free food. Never miss that, huh?" In front of everyone. Your fingers tense on the screen, you start furiously typing a devastating reply that, in your mind, will shut him up. You feel the anger burning in your cheeks and even in your stomach, and you hit send without thinking much about it. The group falls silent. A little later, another cousin responds curtly, your mom calls you on the phone, and when the conversation ends, you realize you've started a family fire that will take weeks to put out. All because you couldn't wait 10 seconds before answering. Now tell me, do you think the ability to wait, to bite your tongue and not react on impulse, can be trained? Well, psychologists proved it decades ago with nothing more than a marshmallow. In the 1970s, psychologist Walter Mischel conducted the famous marshmallow experiment. He put several kids in front of a marshmallow and told them, "If you don't eat it for 10 minutes, I'll give you another one." Those who managed to wait developed years later better emotional skills and greater personal success. The moral? Anger is also a marshmallow, and you decide whether to gobble it down or wait. If Marcus Aurelius had taken part in that marshmallow experiment, I guarantee he would have waited not 10, but all day, if necessary. He too faced situations where his patience was constantly tested, but his response was always the same serene calm. As he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Because anger speaks before thinking, and mastering it means winning twice, over the other and over yourself. If you're thinking that mastering your anger is an impossible mission, I have good news for you. It's not. Maybe your first reaction was something like, "Yeah, sure, easy to say." My friend, I get it, but that's precisely why today I'm going to give you the keys so that next time you don't lose your cool or hand your peace over to anger. First, you're going to do what Dan Harris calls the anchor. And it's not just a name. It's the rope that keeps you tied to the present when the tide of anger tries to sweep you away. The idea is this. Before you open your mouth or hit send, stop. Take 3 deep breaths, but really feel the air going in and out. Inhale while counting to 4, feel your chest expand. Exhale while counting to 6, feel everything deflate. It's not magic, it's space. Space so your response isn't automatic, so you don't regret it later. Picture this. You're driving and someone cuts you off like they're in a hurry to get to hell. Your blood rushes to your head, and your hand is already on the horn. But no, you rest your hands on the wheel, close your eyes for a second, take 3 deep breaths, and when you open them, you're still in control of yourself, not of their rage. Next comes what he calls scanning the body. Sounds technical, but it's pure instinct. When anger gets under your skin, it doesn't do it quietly. It lodges in your shoulders, your jaw, your stomach. So go against it. Bring your attention to those areas, find the tension, and with each exhale, let it go. Release it, like loosening a knot that's too tight. If you're in the middle of a meeting and someone interrupts you with a venomous sarcasm in front of everyone, scan your body. Notice how your jaw turns to stone, your chest burns. Detect the tension, relax your shoulders, breathe. And when you open your mouth, it won't be fire that comes out, but calm. And that, believe me, disarms anyone. Mastering anger doesn't mean swallowing it. It means cooking it slowly until it loses its venom. And when you can do that, no one can poison you. And now, my friend, stay with me, because what's coming in the last point is the cherry on top. That final detail that makes all this mental strength truly worth it. Lesson 14. Expect nothing from anyone. There's something stealing your peace and you don't even see it. It's not what people do. It's what you expected them to do. That invisible gap between what you imagined and what actually happened is where your calm slips away again and again. Because expecting others to react with your same level of intensity, commitment, or worldview is a quiet way to suffer. It's like planting expectations in someone else's soil and then being surprised when nothing grows. And you do it all the time without even realizing it. You put effort into planning something special for someone. You give your time, your attention, your care. And when that person responds with indifference, when they don't even seem to notice what you did, something inside you breaks. Not because of what they did, but because of what they didn't do. Because of the script you wrote in your head that they never got to read. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Cato the Younger, a symbol of integrity and discipline, stood for Rome and its principles, even when everyone else had already surrendered to corruption. But the most interesting thing isn't that he was principled, it's that he never expected others to be. He acted out of conviction, not for praise. He didn't waste energy waiting for gratitude. He kept that energy for himself, because he knew that his virtue didn't depend on anyone's applause. Marcus Aurelius wrote it without sugarcoating it. Expect people to act according to their nature, not according to your will. And that phrase should be tattooed in the mind of anyone who's constantly frustrated with others, because everyone gives what they can, from their own level of clarity, fear, or confusion. Expecting more is like yelling at the ocean to stay still. Now listen to this, because it's key. Psychotherapist Terry Cole explains it with a devastating metaphor. She says that when you have expectations of others, it's like directing a movie in your head. You write the script, you cast the roles, you set the stage, you rehearse every line, but you never gave the script to the actors. So they walk on set, improvise, say whatever they want, act based on their version of the story, and you get upset because they didn't follow your script. But how could they? Did they sign a contract? Did they even audition? There's the problem. Your expectations are not agreements. Even if you repeat them 1,000 times in your mind, no one else heard them. It's like writing a letter, putting it in an envelope and never sending it, then getting angry because nobody read it. Absurd, right? But that's how so many of us live. So what do you do when people don't respond the way you expected? When that friend you always support is never there when you need them? When your partner doesn't value the effort you make? When your kids don't acknowledge the sacrifices you've made for them? The first step is to ask yourself, with brutal honesty, did I clearly communicate what I needed, or did I just assume they knew? Because most of the time, we expect people to read our minds. And when they don't, we feel betrayed. But no one can give you what they don't know you need. Let this sink in. If you didn't say it, it's not fair to hold it against them. Then shift your focus. Instead of waiting for others to recognize you, recognize yourself. Didn't get a thank you? Thank yourself. Well done. I did what I wanted to do because it mattered to me, not because I wanted something in return. That small act of self-validation is revolutionary, because it puts the power back in your hands. It reminds you that your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. And now comes the hardest part. Accept that every person has their own level of awareness, their own capacity to give. Not everyone can give what you give, not because they're bad, simply because they're not where you are. And continuing to expect them to change is like waiting for an apple tree to grow oranges. It's not going to happen. The Stoics knew this. That's why they focused so much on only controlling what's within your reach, your effort, your intention, your attitude. But the response from others, their gratitude, their reciprocity, that's not yours, and clinging to it only ties you to unnecessary suffering. Marcus Aurelius lived this firsthand, emperor of Rome, surrounded by traitors and flatterers. Do you think he expected loyalty from everyone? Number. He expected the worst from many, but still acted with integrity. Not because they deserved it, but because he had decided who he wanted to be, regardless of how others acted. So what do you do with those expectations that are eating away at you? Let them go. Not because people don't deserve your effort, but because your peace can't depend on whether or not they rise to meet it. Do what you do because it aligns with who you are, not because you're waiting for something in return. And when you feel that sting of disappointment rising, ask yourself, is this personal or just human? Because most of the time, when someone doesn't meet your expectations, it's not because they want to hurt you. It's because they're limited by their own humanity, their exhaustion, their selfishness, their lack of awareness. That doesn't excuse everything, but it helps you stop taking it personally. It helps you understand that you're not the problem. You just expected the other person to be a version of you, and they're not. They never will be. So stop directing mental movies where everyone plays the role you assigned them. Stop handing out scripts no one asked for, and start living your life without tying your peace to what others do or don't do. Because, my friend, every time you let go of an unfair expectation, you reclaim a piece of your peace. And every time you stop expecting others to fill you, you start filling yourself. And right there, in that moment, you move closer to the secret of never losing your calm again, with nothing and with no one. Lesson 15. Your worth isn't out there. Really, my friend? I ask you to think about this seriously. How many times a day do you wait for someone's approval? How many times do you need to hear, "well done," to feel like you matter? And how many times have you felt small just because nobody looked at you or replied to you? Self-esteem that depends on others is like a glass vase teetering on the edge of a table. One little push and it shatters. Now picture this. You post a photo on social media and a whole hour goes by without a single like. At first you tell yourself it doesn't matter, but then you start looking at it again and questioning yourself. Do I look bad? Does no one care? You feel a knot in your stomach, your face heats up, and anxiety rises like a runaway train. All over a few clicks. Epictetus understood this perfectly. And not because he had Instagram. He said, "Don't worry about what's beyond your control." He stayed focused on the only thing he truly could control: his actions, his decisions, his character. He never needed anyone to tell him he was doing well to know he was, because his worth wasn't out there. It was in what he did when no one was watching. But don't worry, you're not the only one who feels this way. Even the people who today seem masters of their calm have been through it too. Jay Shetty shared on his podcast that, as a teenager, he tried to fit in at all costs. He joined the rugby team, and no, not because he liked it, but because he wanted to be seen as strong and brave. Every day he acted just to be accepted, and the more he tried, the further away from himself he felt. Until one day he realized that performance only fueled his anxiety and pulled him away from who he truly was. Now I ask you, my friend, do you really want to keep looking for your worth in the eyes of others? Don't you see that only brings you more anxiety? It's time to start looking at yourself. So listen to these tips, as if I were telling them to you in confidence. First, stop acting just to fit in. If you notice you're doing something only to impress, like Jay with rugby, stop and ask yourself, is this what I want or what they expect of me? That question already calms your mind because it puts the choice back in your hands. For example, imagine you're going to a party just so you don't look bad, even though you'd rather stay home and rest. Ask yourself, am I going because it excites me, or because I'm afraid they'll judge me if I don't? If the answer is the second one, give yourself permission not to go, and you'll feel the anxiety fade. Then reconnect with who you really are. Jay said that even though he didn't feel enough at school, at home he always felt loved by his mother. Find that place of yours, that refuge where you know you're enough even if nobody applauds. Think, for instance, of a moment in your life when you felt safe and at peace, even if no one congratulated you for anything. Maybe a quiet walk at sunset, maybe cooking for yourself with no one watching. Go back to those little gestures and remember your worth doesn't depend on a stage or an audience. And finally, shift your focus. Jay discovered that serving others brought him peace and made him feel whole. When you focus on contributing instead of impressing, anxiety fades and calm returns. For example, next time you walk into a meeting or a dinner with friends, instead of thinking, "Will they like me?" change the question to, "How can I help others feel good today?" As soon as you shift that perspective, you stop being a prisoner of their opinion and become someone who adds to the room. When your self-image depends on you, you're like a rock in the middle of the tide, unmoved even when the sea roars, because nothing and no one can steal your calm or control your inner peace. Lesson 16. Everything passes, even this. There's a truth we all know, but few of us truly accept. Nothing lasts forever. Not the pain that feels unbearable today, nor the joy you believe will never end. Everything changes, everything flows, everything transforms. And resisting that is the fastest way to lose your peace. But accepting it, my friend, is liberating, because it means this moment, no matter how hard, is not permanent. This pain that's consuming you will fade. This crisis that's drowning you will one day be just a blurry memory. And it also means the opposite, that the happiness you think will last forever will also pass. That perfect relationship, that dream job, that golden season of life, all of it has an expiration date. And yes, that might sound sad, but in reality, it's what gives each moment its value. because if something were eternal, you'd stop appreciating it. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote it with brutal clarity. Time is like a river of events rushing everything along. Nothing remains. He, Emperor of Rome with all the power in the world, understood that not even his empire would last, that victories would be forgotten, that betrayals would dissolve, that everything, absolutely everything, would be swept away by time. And that understanding didn't break him. It gave him a deep, grounded calm. Because if nothing is permanent, then there's no point in clinging in desperation or drowning in drama. The only thing that makes sense is to be present, to accept what is, and to trust that everything will move. Hierocles, another Stoic philosopher, spent years locked away in a cold, dark prison, surrounded by screams, despair, and suffering. And when a new prisoner arrived, trembling with fear, he would smile and say, "Time doesn't stop for pain or joy. It flows the same." And slowly, those men would come to understand that even the worst pain fades, that the most intense sorrow loses its grip over time. Think about your own life. Remember that pain you once thought would destroy you? Where is it now? What happened to those sleepless nights, those tears that felt endless? They're gone. They faded. Because time doesn't ask, it doesn't wait. It just moves forward and transforms everything it touches. And the same will happen with what you're going through now. That breakup that's breaking you, that debt that keeps you up at night, that loss that feels impossible to bear. All of that will change shape with time. It might not disappear completely, but it won't carry the same weight. It won't take up every corner of your mind. So why do we keep resisting change? Why do we cling to what's already leaving? Why do we sink into pain as if it's going to last forever? Because we forget that we're part of the river, not the shoreline. The river keeps flowing, and so do we. And when we try to stay still, when we cling to a rock in the middle of the current, all we do is wear ourselves out. The Stoics practice something called memento mori. Remember that you will die. Not to get depressed, but to remember that time is limited, that everything, including your life, is temporary, and that awareness doesn't paralyze you. It sets you free. Because if everything is temporary, then it makes no sense to waste your energy suffering over what you cannot change. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He reminded himself that even he, with all his power, would die, that his name would be forgotten, that his empire would fall. And that meditation didn't make him a pessimist. It made him aware, present, grateful for what he had while he had it. So how do you apply this when you're in the middle of chaos? When it feels like the pain will never end? When it seems like this crisis is final? First, remind yourself with simple words, "This too shall pass." Don't say it like an empty mantra. Say it with awareness. Say it while looking back at all the times it already passed. All those crises you once thought were permanent and that today you barely remember. That's your reminder that the river is still flowing. Next, mark a future date on your calendar. A month, 6 months, a year, and write, "From here, this won't weigh the same." Not because the problem will magically disappear, but because you will have changed. Time will have given you perspective. And what consumes you today will be just another experience from there. And here's something powerful. Observe change in the small things. Watch how the clouds move, how the light shifts throughout the day, how your body is not the same one you had years ago. Everything is in constant transformation, and so are you. So is your pain. So is your situation. The Stoics never denied suffering. They didn't pretend pain didn't exist. But they understood that clinging to it, resisting change, only made it last longer. And that accepting impermanence is the fastest way to recover your peace. 17th lesson. Stay quiet when it's hardest. Oh, look who finally showed up on time, a miracle. Wow, you really know how to pick an outfit on for sleeping. Of course, nobody expects anything from you, because you're not worth expecting anything from. Sound familiar? We've all been hit with lines like these, and the worst part isn't hearing them. The worst part is letting them steal your calm. It happened to me too. At a family dinner, between laughter and plates being passed around, my uncle, with his mouth full of bread, blurted out in front of everyone, "No wonder you don't have a partner with that personality. Who could stand you?" I felt my blood shoot up like a rocket. I already had a comeback about his third divorce right on the tip of my tongue. But I took a breath, stood up, and went to serve myself more salad without saying a word. The silence stung more than any insult. You could hear the clinking of cutlery and see people's eyes awkwardly looking away while I kept chewing my lettuce with my head held high. Now imagine this happens to you. You're in the middle of a wedding. Your partner, in front of your friends, throws a sarcastic jab because you arrived late. Of course, always have to wait for you, as usual. Everyone laughs, some nervously. You feel your face burn, your palms sweat, and the urge to fire back with something just as cruel, to humiliate them right there. But instead you choose to stay quiet, raise your glass with a faint smile, and look at them calmly. That pause, that controlled coldness, unsettles everyone more than a shout ever could. Because in that moment you didn't just stay centered. You left the other person dangling in their own poison. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than anyone. He said, "Everyone acts according to what they know and who they are. Don't get angry. Have compassion." And he didn't just say it to sound virtuous, he practiced it in war, in the Senate, in his daily life. When someone shouted at him, accused him, or betrayed him, he looked them in the eyes, breathed, and let them drown in their own noise. Because he understood that silence isn't submission. It's a strategy to keep yourself from being dragged into someone else's mud. And you too can learn to master your mind and emotions so nothing and no one can steal that calm or rule your inner peace. So, my friend, next time the words burn in your throat, try this. A conscious silence, 5 to 7 seconds, before you respond. That pause isn't just any pause. It's a stoic silence, so firm that the other person starts to hear themselves and feel uncomfortable. It's like holding up a mirror without saying a thing. If you still feel the fire inside and your jaw trembling, look at them calmly and ask in a soft voice, "Could you repeat that?" Very few people can repeat an insult in the cold light of day, and those who do only expose themselves. If you want to go a step further, throw a question that confronts them without aggression but with intent. Did you say that to offend me? Or, how did you want me to feel when you said that? Or even, does saying that make you feel better? You'll see them lower their gaze, stammer, falter, because they weren't expecting you to keep control. My friend, silence used at the right moment isn't weakness, it's mastery. And when you manage to use it right when it hurts the most, you discover that no one can drag you into their chaos or rule your inner peace. That, my friend, is what makes you immune to anger and anxiety. Lesson number 18. Don't forget who you were on your worst days. I know. There are days when it feels like you've hit your limit, like you can't keep going. But here's the thing. You felt that before. And yet, here you are. You've thought it in silence, maybe even said it out loud, and still, you moved forward. Maybe without strength, maybe without motivation, but you kept going. And even if your mind has wiped it from memory, that was a victory. That's one of the cruel tricks of anxiety. It convinces you that you're starting from scratch when, in reality, you've been building a kind of resilience for years, even if you've forgotten what that feels like. Marcus Aurelius once wrote something worth remembering. Everything difficult you've already endured, you've forgotten. And he was right. The mind tends to erase the evidence of your strength as if it didn't count. But every time you thought you couldn't handle it and still did, you weren't just getting through the day. You were training something deeper than your body, your spirit. That part of you that stood up when everything else around you seemed to fall apart. Every emotional scar is a medal no one sees. It doesn't shine, you don't show it off. But it proves you made it through something you thought you couldn't. Sometimes you carry them without realizing it, hidden under your clothes or behind a smile. But they're still there, quietly reminding you that yes, you've known pain, but you've also known your way out. Take Emma Stone, the actress from La La Land. Before the awards, before the spotlight, She had her first panic attack at 13 in the middle of class. She said she genuinely thought she was going to die, her heart pounding out of her chest. Years later, she looked back on that moment and said something simple: "I've been through worse and I'm still here." That phrase holds the very essence of what we tend to forget when fear comes knocking again. This isn't the first time your mind has tried to scare you, and it won't be the last time you prove it wrong. Anxiety has a way of making everything feel unfamiliar, but most of the time, it's not new. It's the same storm with a different sky. And if you've walked through it before, you can walk through it again. Every hard moment you've survived is a lesson, a silent badge of honor, a reminder that you're not new to this. You've done it before, and you can do it again. So when you feel like you're falling apart, pause and bring your own story to mind. Make a mental list, or write it down, of 3 moments when you were certain you couldn't go on, but you did. It doesn't matter if they were big or small. It could be a breakup, a loss, a sleepless week, or just a day when you kept going without knowing why. Write them, read them, hold on to them, because anxiety will try to delete your story, but you can remind yourself of it. And when that voice in your head says you're not strong enough, show it the facts. Remind it of all the times you stood back up when no one expected you to. Speak to yourself as someone who has survived, not someone who's starting from nothing. You don't need to become a new version of you. You just need to remember the one who already made it through worse. Epictetus said we are not disturbed by events, but by the opinion we have of them. And sometimes that opinion is shaped by forgetfulness. If you could see yourself through the eyes of someone who truly knows your story, you'd understand that you're already far stronger than you give yourself credit for. This storm isn't a punishment, it's just another test. And your heart, and the same one that survived before, is more than ready for it. Sometimes finding calm isn't about learning something new. It's about remembering what you've already lived. Peace doesn't always have to be built. Sometimes it's simply recognized. It's hidden in every one of those moments where you thought, "I can't do this," and then did it anyway. My friend, never underestimate the version of you who fought when no one was watching. That version is still there, still inside you, still ready to remind you that this isn't your first storm, and like the others, this one will pass too. Just this time, don't forget to hold on to the memory, so that next time anxiety tries to tell you you're not strong enough, you'll have something to show it, the living proof that you've already made it through before, and you will again. And now, let me ask you, if you could send a message to the version of you who was about to give up, what would you say? Share it in the comments. Maybe your words today are exactly what someone else needs to read to keep going. Lesson 19. Be grateful to those who irritate you. Not long ago, I was at the movies, settled in with my popcorn, ready to unwind. But the girl next to me wouldn't stop talking on the phone, laughing and commenting on every scene like she was in her living room. My first thought was, please, let the earth swallow her already. I felt my fingers gripping the armrest and my ears burning with anger. But when I managed to focus, I realized that girl was like a free patience coach, right there in the middle of the movie. A kind of pop quiz to see if I really had control over my mind, or if any noise could steal my calm. Now imagine you're the protagonist of this other scene. You're at a neighborhood meeting. It's already long and tense, but when it's finally your turn to speak, the typical guy who argues about everything starts interrupting you after every sentence. You feel your face heating up, your legs shaking under the table, and you've already got a sharp comeback ready to humiliate him in front of everyone. You can already picture yourself raising your voice and winning the battle with a final round of applause. But in that moment, you breathe and think, thanks for the practice, champ. And even though it sounds ridiculous, it feels like you've won something more important than an argument. If Marcus Aurelius were at that meeting, he would probably think, this man is my emotional gym. Because, my friend, it's precisely in that moment when your peace is at risk that your true strength is tested. And if you think about it, the Stoics were right. You can't control who crosses your path, but you can control how you respond. Epictetus put it very clearly when he said, Difficulties are what show men who they are. So every person who gets under your skin is also showing you a part of yourself that you can still strengthen. It's not just an annoying neighbor or a rude girl at the movies. It's a mirror reflecting your weak spots so you can train them. So, do you want to turn your enemies into personal trainers? Start by noticing which part of you is getting triggered. Maybe it's your pride, thinking no one should speak to you like that. Or maybe it's your insecurity, feeling you're worthless if you don't win the argument. Or maybe it's just your impatience, your inability to tolerate someone else's pace. For example, next time someone cuts you off while you're speaking, ask yourself, which part of me feels attacked? Then, change the question you're asking yourself. Instead of, why are they doing this to me? Say, what are they teaching me? The answer might surprise you. Maybe they're teaching you to listen better, to have more control over your gestures, to stop depending so much on other people's approval. And finally, practice mentally thanking them for the lesson. Even if on the outside you're just smiling through clenched teeth, inside you can repeat a little mantra to help you remember. Thanks for helping me train, or this also makes me stronger. Every annoying person is like a weight at the gym. The more you lift it, the stronger you get. And no one is going to train for you. So tell me in the comments, who's been your patience coach this week? Or simply write, I'm grateful to those who challenge me. Lesson 20. Don't carry what isn't yours. Have you ever stopped to think about everything you're carrying on your shoulders that doesn't even belong to you? I'm not talking about physical stuff. I mean worries, guilt, responsibilities that were never yours, but you carry them around as if they had your name written on them. Your mother's anxiety about her surgery, your coworker's stress because he can't make it to the end of the month, your cousin's toxic relationship she tells you about fight by fight on WhatsApp, your father's resentment toward his boss. Do you see it? You're dragging around other people's backpacks, while your own is being left behind, untouched, falling apart. And the worst part is, you often don't even notice. You think that's empathy, that it means being a good person. But my friend, there's a huge difference between walking alongside someone and getting lost in their path. The Stoics understood this over 2,000 years ago, and they didn't sugarcoat it. Epictetus put it like this: divide the world into two categories, what depends on you and what doesn't. Your thoughts, your actions, your decisions, that's yours. But other people's choices, their reactions, their problems, that's not. And spending your energy trying to control the uncontrollable is the perfect recipe for suffering. Marcus Aurelius, with the entire weight of the Roman Empire on his shoulders, reminded himself of something fundamental every morning. His inner peace depended only on him. No one could steal it unless he opened the door. Not even the traitors plotting behind his back. Not the generals challenging his authority. Not even the plagues that swept through Rome. Because he knew his calm didn't come from what happened outside. It came from how he chose to respond from within. And Seneca put it in a powerful image. Trying to carry what doesn't belong to you is like pouring water into a bottomless basket. You can keep going forever, but it will never fill up. You'll just wear yourself out trying. Now think about this. You have a coworker who calls you every week to vent about his relationship. He's been in that relationship for years. He's been saying he's going to leave for years, crying on your shoulder for years. And you, of course, listen. You give advice. You even offered him your place to stay until things get clearer. But they never do. Because every time he's about to make a decision, he goes back to her. And you're left with a knot in your stomach, going over his situation in your head like it's yours to solve. You lose sleep imagining ways he could get out. You cancel your plans because your friend needs to talk. You even feel guilty for enjoying yourself, because he's suffering. And then one day it hits you, he's still exactly the same. That's his default state. But you're exhausted. It's like someone tossed you a box full of rocks, and instead of saying, "This isn't mine," you open it and start putting the rocks in your pockets. Then you wonder why you're moving so slowly, why everything feels so heavy. It's because you're carrying weight that's not yours, my friend, and no one asked you to. You decided you were responsible for it. The savior role is seductive. It makes you feel important, needed, even noble. But it's a trap, because in the end, no one gets better. And you end up drained, frustrated, asking yourself why you're trying so hard if nothing changes. And often, they don't even thank you. What you're hearing right now, even if it's just playing in the background as you go about your day, is the reminder you need. You are not responsible for other people's problems. And pretending to be is arrogance disguised as kindness. So, what do you do when someone comes to unload their drama onto you? First, listen, without becoming the firefighter. You don't have to put out every fire. Sometimes people just need someone to be there, not someone to fix everything. And when you stop giving automatic solutions, you give them space to find their own. You hand back the power they didn't even realize they gave away. Second, set clear boundaries. It's not cruelty, it's sanity. If your sister calls you at midnight with the same story again, you can lovingly say, "I love you, but I can't keep going over this with you. You know how I feel." Now the decision is yours, and you hang up. Without guilt, because your peace is not up for negotiation. Third, offer resources, not your whole life. If someone needs professional help, give them a therapist's contact. But don't become their therapist. If they need money, point them to where they might find it. But don't go into debt for problems you didn't create. Lesson 21. Imagine the chaos before it comes. Marcus Aurelius had a curious habit. Every morning he mentally prepared for the problems of the day. He didn't fear them, he anticipated them. He thought about betrayal, criticism, or frustration before they happened. Not to become pessimistic, but to make sure he wouldn't be caught off guard. That habit gave him something most of us have lost: serenity before the conflict. Because when you're already expecting the hit doesn't knock you down. Today, we live the other way around. We pretend everything will go perfectly, and when something goes wrong, our world collapses. You wake up calm, have your coffee, and suddenly a single message ruins your whole day. Bad news, a canceled meeting, a comment that pokes at your mood. Your mind spirals into panic because it wasn't ready. And that's when anxiety takes over. But if you trained your mind like a muscle, if you got it used to facing chaos without fear, the impact would be much smaller. There's a story that illustrates this perfectly. Julio de la Iglesia, a former bomb disposal expert, once said that before approaching an explosive, he would always imagine every possible scenario. A faulty suit, human error, detonation. He didn't do it out of fear. He did it so that if something went wrong, his body wouldn't freeze. He visualized chaos to gain control over it before it happened. And that's exactly what we do when we accept the possibility that things might go wrong, without letting that steal our peace. Visualizing the unexpected is like training with extra weight. When the real moment comes, you move more easily. If you only rely on everything going smoothly, you fall apart as soon as things go off script. But if your mind has already walked through that terrain, there's no shock, only response. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly, not because he didn't trust life, but because he understood setbacks are part of it. That's how he avoided letting frustration rule him. Anticipating isn't fearing, it's building strength. Think about something more every day, like a tough conversation you've been avoiding for weeks. You keep telling yourself how uncomfortable it'll be, and when the time comes, anxiety freezes you. But if you take just 5 minutes beforehand to picture how it might go, even imagining the tensest parts, your body has already rehearsed the scene. When the real moment arrives, the words flow without that inner tremble that makes you lose control. It's the same with anything: an interview, an exam, a meeting. The mind fears what it doesn't know, but calms down in front of what it's already seen, even if only in a mental rehearsal. Athletes know this. Soldiers know this. And so does anyone who's learned to breathe before reacting. Preparing yourself mentally doesn't make you cold. It makes you free. Try this experiment. Tonight, before bed, think of 3 things that could go wrong tomorrow. Imagine the worst-case scenario. Not to dramatize, just observe it. as if you were watching it from the outside. Then think, what would I do if that happened? Don't use it to scare yourself, use it to give yourself space. Because mental space is the difference between anxiety and composure. When your mind has already visited chaos, real chaos loses its power. Epictetus didn't fear chaos. He feared losing his calm in the face of it, because chaos itself doesn't destroy you. What breaks you is the way you look at it. Sometimes the mess is out there, but the storm gets triggered inside. And when you learn to stay clear in the middle of that noise, chaos stops being the enemy and becomes the stage. This isn't about living in defense mode. It's about living in awareness. It means that when something goes wrong, your first reaction isn't panic. It's peace. The Stoics didn't fool themselves into thinking everything would go well. They strengthened themselves by knowing that even if it didn't, they would still stand firm. And that's something you can start practicing today. My friend, you can't stop the blows, but you can show up with your shield raised. Anticipating the hard stuff isn't living in fear. It's living prepared. Anxiety doesn't go away by hoping the world slows down. It fades when you decide not to spin with it. And right there, in that space where chaos no longer shakes you, that's where your true inner freedom begins. Lesson 22. No one rules over your peace. Why do you keep giving away your peace like it's a glass of water at a party? Every time someone provokes you and you explode, you're letting them rule you. And the worst part is you don't even realize it. It seems all it takes is a dirty look or a spiteful comment for you to become someone else's puppet. Picture this. You're in line at the supermarket after a horrible day. Your head is full of worries, your neck is tight, and all you want is to get home. Suddenly, a stranger bumps you with their cart and snaps, "Can you hurry up?" Inside, you feel something crack. You feel your blood boil, and 1,000 cutting replies rush through your mind. You're just about to unload everything you've been holding back all day. But in that moment, it becomes clear. If you do it, if you fall into the trap, that person just became your master for a whole minute. Do they really deserve that kind of power over you? You're not the first this has happened to. Once Socrates was insulted in the street for several minutes while others looked on curiously. He didn't say a word. Later, someone asked him why he hadn't responded, and Socrates smiled and said, "If a donkey kicked me, would I sue it?" With that, he made it clear. It's not about winning every argument, but about understanding you don't need to lower yourself to that level. If a donkey kicks you, it's not because it has some master plan to hurt you. It's a donkey, and it does what donkeys do. Likewise, there are people who know nothing but to throw punches and venom. You decide whether to behave like them or like someone who masters their own mind. Psychologist Guy Winch calls this emotional hygiene. He says taking care of your emotional state is just as important as brushing your teeth. You wouldn't let someone come along and stuff your mouth with dirt, right? So don't let them dirty your calm either. Because, my friend, no one can control your peace unless you hand them the keys. So are you ready to shield your peace? First, decide in advance that no one deserves to see your worst side. For example, before walking into a meeting or an awkward dinner, remind yourself, "Today, nothing and no one steals my calm." This is what the Stoics did. Marcus Aurelius every morning prepared himself for the worst. He wrote, "When day breaks, remind yourself, I will meet the indiscreet, the ungrateful, the insolent, the deceitful, the envious, the unsociable. All this happens because they are ignorant of good and evil." You see, he wasn't surprised when people misbehaved. He already expected it. Then, when someone tries to ruin your day, imagine their words are bubbles. You hear them. They may even grab your attention for a second, but they pop as soon as they reach you and leave no trace. Don't hold on to them. Don't collect them. And finally, if for some reason you lose control and react badly, don't beat yourself up. Forgive yourself quickly and return to your center. Like the sea after a storm, your peace can always return, as long as you stop feeding the waves. Tell me in the comments, what's the situation where it's been hardest for you to keep your calm? And if you'd rather sum it all up in one phrase to remind yourself every day, write, "Stoic at heart, Because every time you choose not to react and stay centered, my friend, you prove that no one rules over your peace. Lesson 23. Your body obeys when you decide to take charge. Have you ever felt like your body betrays you at the worst possible moment? Like your mind is saying, "Relax, it's all good," but your hands are sweating, your voice is shaking, and your legs turn to jelly. As if your brain and your body were living on two different planets not speaking to each other. And the most frustrating part is, you really do try to calm down. You tell yourself over and over to chill, but the more you try, the worse it gets. It's like your own body is rebelling against you right when you need it the most. But let me tell you something you might not have heard explained clearly. Your body isn't betraying you, it's protecting you. The problem is it doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a perceived one. It can't tell the difference between being chased by a lion and having an awkward meeting at the office. To your body, it's all danger, and it reacts accordingly. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Epictetus, who had been a slave before becoming a philosopher, knew better than anyone what it meant to lose control over your own body. Chains, beatings, constant fear. But he learned something crucial, that even if he couldn't control what was done to him, he could control how his body responded from within. He taught that you must first master what others see, then master what only you see. Because when your body stops giving away your inner chaos, your mind starts to believe in your calm. Your body, my friend, is like a hypersensitive alarm system. It picks up anything it thinks is a threat and goes into full alert. Heart racing, shallow breathing, tight muscles, cold sweat. It's your body's way of saying, get ready to run or fight. The problem? That system was built for tigers and battlefields, not for PowerPoint presentations or difficult conversations with your boss. So what do you do when your body is firing off alarms and you need to stay calm? First, understand that you can't shut it down by yelling at yourself internally. Telling yourself calm down over and over doesn't help. It just creates more tension. It's like trying to put out a fire by blowing on it too hard. You only feed the flames. What does work is speaking your body's language. And your body doesn't speak thoughts. It speaks through movement. That's why the Stoics were so insistent on posture, breath, and physical gestures. Because they knew that when you change the outside, the inside starts to follow. Think about someone who makes you nervous just by walking into the room. That intimidating boss. That family member who always makes you feel small. The moment you see them, your body tenses. Shoulders rise, jaw clenches, hands close into fists. And your mind, seeing all those signals, decides, we're under attack. But if, in that moment, you deliberately drop your shoulders, open your hands, release your jaw, your brain gets a different message. Wait, if this is danger, why is the body so relaxed? And it starts to question itself. And that little bit of doubt is enough for the alarm to start lowering. Now listen to this, because it's powerful. Ginny Thrasher, only 19 years old, was competing in the Rio Olympics with a gold medal on the line. Thousands of eyes on her, cameras everywhere, total silence. And her body did exactly what yours would do. Shaking, sweating, screaming at her to run. But she did something different. She closed her eyes for a moment and began to breathe. Slowly, very slowly. And as she did, she repeated to herself, "There's no lion here. There's no lion here." With each inhale, she reminded her body she wasn't in danger. With each exhale, she let go of a bit more tension. She didn't try to erase her fear. She just put a leash on it. She guided it. Instead of letting her body drag her around, she took it by the hand. And when she pulled the trigger, the shot was perfect. Gold medal. And when they asked how she managed it, she said something that should be taught in schools. It wasn't talent. It was learning how to calm my breath when everything in me wanted to run. That's what you can do too, my friend. Because this isn't about being an Olympian or a Zen monk. It's about understanding that your body reacts to very specific signals. And if you give it the right ones, it will listen. So how do you speak to your body in its own language? Start with your breath. But not just any breathing, Conscious, slow, deep breathing. Put your hand on your chest and feel it rise and fall. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold for 2 seconds. Exhale to the count of 6. Repeat. You'll see. Within a minute, your heart rate starts to slow. It's not magic. It's physiology. Then relax whatever is tense. Your shoulders, almost always tight, your jaw. You probably don't even realize it's clenched. Your hands, often balled into fists without you noticing. Open all of it. Let it go like you're dropping a heavy backpack. And if you can, move. A light stretch, a 2-minute walk, even shaking out your hands like you're flicking off water. That motion tells your brain, we're okay. If there were danger, we wouldn't be moving so casually. Because the Stoics knew it well. The body follows the one who leads it with strength. If you let it drag you, it'll pull you straight into chaos. But if you take the reins, if you act with clear physical intention, it obeys. Not instantly, but it does obey. Marcus Aurelius lived it every day, with the weight of an empire on his back, surrounded by betrayals, wars, and disease. His body felt stress just like yours, but he learned not to be ruled by his sensations. He learned that he could feel fear and still act with calm, that his heart could race, and he could still make clear decisions. So, my friend, the next time you feel like your body is spiraling out of control, remember, there is no lion. There's just an outdated alarm system that needs to be reminded where it is. And when you manage to calm it, when you feel control returning, you'll know you've taken another step closer to that secret of never losing your calm again. With nothing and with no one. Lesson 24. Save your energy for what really matters. Do you know what the most common way to lose your peace is? Wasting your energy on battles that don't matter. On arguments you'll have forgotten an hour later. On fights that leave a bitter taste and no real lesson. And the worst part is, sometimes you don't even notice. You're right there, caught in some pointless argument in the middle of traffic, yelling things no one hears, because they already rolled up their window. Or arguing over messages with someone on social media you don't know and will never meet. Or picking a fight with your neighbor because they didn't put the trash out right. And meanwhile, your child is waiting to play with you. Your partner needs you to listen. That important project of yours is still sitting there, untouched. Because every minute you give to the trivial is a minute you steal from what truly deserves your attention. The Stoics knew this well. Cleanthes, one of the early leaders of Stoicism, worked nights hauling water so he could study philosophy during the day. And every morning, a drunk would shout insults at him as he crossed the square. He'd yell, mock him, humiliate him. But Cleanthes never reacted. He just kept walking, eyes forward. And when someone asked him why he didn't respond, he said something that should be carved in stone. Don't interrupt my silence. It's worth more than your shouting. That's the key right there. He understood something most people take a lifetime to learn. Giving words to a useless fight is losing them for what really matters. His mind, his calm, his purpose. Marcus Aurelius lived it too. Emperor of Rome, surrounded by traitors, corrupt politicians, and conspirators. Imagine how many chances he had to jump into empty arguments. But he chose something else. He wrote it down with brutal clarity. Avoid futile disputes. They pull the soul off its path. And this thing you're hearing now while you work or go for a walk is the reminder you need. Every minute you waste on what doesn't matter is a minute lost from what truly does. Think about it. How many minutes have you thrown away in arguments that led nowhere? How much energy have you wasted fighting over nonsense you didn't even remember the next day? Marcus Aurelius knew it well. Every minute spent in a useless fight is a minute stolen from your true mission. And he didn't just say it, he lived it. When politicians attacked him, he didn't respond with insults. When people gossiped behind his back, he didn't bother explaining himself. He responded with facts, with action, with dignified silence. Because he knew that every time he let himself be pulled into that noise, he was drifting away from his center. So, what do you do when someone tries to drag you into a pointless argument? When that co-worker throws passive-aggressive comments at you? When that family member picks a fight at Christmas dinner? When some stranger at the supermarket blames you for something you didn't do? The first step is to stop and ask yourself, with brutal honesty, What do I gain from this? Don't answer automatically. Really stop and ask, if I step into this fight, what am I going to get out of it? Because if the answer is nothing but a rise in blood pressure, then you already have your answer. Stay silent. That silence speaks too, and often it speaks louder than any shout. Then break the pattern. Don't just stand there like a punching bag waiting for the next hit. Change the scene. Stand up. Move, even if it's just a couple of steps. Look out the window. Drink some water. Breathe. That small physical shift sends a signal to your brain. This isn't a threat. There's no war here, and when your body gets that message, your mind starts to relax too. And here's something that works better than you think. Calm as a weapon. That steady look that doesn't flinch, even when someone's yelling. You look at the person, nod slowly, maybe even smile if you can, and walk away without saying a word. That unexpected serenity disarms more conflict than any brilliant comeback. Because when someone expects fire and you give them ice, they run out of fuel. They don't know what to do with your calm. The Stoics called it active indifference. It's not that you don't care. It's that you choose not to give it power. You decide, consciously, that this person, this moment, this provocation doesn't deserve a second of your energy. Because your energy, my friend, is limited. It's not a bottomless well. Every day you have a set amount, and how you spend it defines the quality of your life. If you burn it all reacting to provocations, arguing online, getting tangled with people you don't even respect, what's left for what really matters? For your family, for your projects, for your peace. My friend, burn this truth into your mind. Not every battle is worth fighting. In fact, most of them aren't. So ask yourself right now, what pointless arguments are draining your energy? What fights could you walk away from today without losing a thing? Because believe me, when you start saving your energy for what really matters, everything changes. You stop feeling drained by nonsense. You stop coming home with your spirit wrinkled from conflicts that led nowhere. And you start to have space to think, to create, to enjoy what you have, to be present with the people you love. Because, my friend, every time you choose not to join the noise, every time you protect your calm instead of handing it over to just anyone, you get closer to mastering your reaction and staying centered in the middle of chaos. And that right there is how you move closer to the secret of never losing your calm again. With nothing and with no one. Lesson number 25. Stand firm no matter what. The courtroom was packed. The murmur was like a swarm as Nelson Mandela walked to the center. He'd been detained for months and knew there was no way out. In the front row, his mother tried to hold back tears. In the back, the policeman stared at him as if he were already buried. The judge, with a dry voice, asked if he wanted to say anything before being sentenced. Mandela took a deep breath, raised his head and smiled, just slightly, as if none of it touched him. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination, and I am prepared to die, he said. And in that instant, the entire courtroom froze. No one dared to move. That serenity wasn't indifference. It was power. A man with a calm mind is more dangerous than 1,000 men shouting. And my friend, you don't need to be standing in front of a judge to prove it to yourself. All it takes is an ordinary day at the bank counter. The line isn't moving. Your phone is burning a hole in your pocket after half an hour, and the person in front of you starts yelling at the teller. You feel the anger like a wave that hits you and pushes you forward. Without realizing it, your hands clench into fists, your breath shortens, and a voice in your head says, "Say something, join in. Don't just stand there." A stranger, an absurd situation, and your calm no longer belongs to you. If Marcus Aurelius had been there, he probably would have smiled and said something like, "Lines also train patience and legs," because he already knew what we tend to forget. In his meditations, he wrote, "If something external disturbs you, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment of it." What does that mean? That you choose not to move with the chaos, that you decide to stand firm even if everything around you shakes. Today, more than ever, the ability to keep your mind open and serene in the middle of conflict is one of the most valuable skills. Because when someone manages to knock you off balance, when someone else decides whether you get angry or not, it's because you've handed them control of your inner peace, and that peace is not for sale. So if you want nothing to pull you out of your center, listen to this. First, prepare yourself beforehand. Each morning, as you get dressed, remind yourself that things won't go as you expect. Quietly say, "Today I will meet impatient people, rude people, people fighting their own battles, and none of that will take away my calm." It's like sharpening your sword before the battle. Then, when the storm comes, because it will come, and you're there in the bank line with someone yelling at the teller and your heart racing, don't fight it. Stay like someone watching the rain from the window. Notice how the other person yells, how your hands sweat and breathe. Just observe without getting hooked, as if that storm belonged to someone else and you stayed dry inside. And finally, if in that line someone points at you, tries to drag you into their chaos, set boundaries calmly. You don't need to raise your voice. A brief, firm phrase is enough. "We'll continue when you've calmed down." Or simply, "I don't accept being spoken to like that." Said with serenity, that sentence is stronger than any shout. The storms won't stop coming. But the question isn't whether it will rain. It's whether you'll be the umbrella or the puddle. And when you learn to master your anger and your anxiety, nothing and no one can snatch away your calm or flood your inner peace. Mastering your mind and your emotions is the real victory, my friend. Every day you have the chance to choose calm over chaos, to decide that no one else controls your peace. It's not about waiting for everything around you to change. It's about learning to own what does depend on you, your attitude, your reactions, your serenity. Because true strength isn't measured by how loud you can shout, but by how much calm you can keep when everything shakes. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "I choose calm above all." The fact that you've made it to the end says a lot about your commitment to yourself. And that's what builds real strength, day by day. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you know someone who needs this message, share it with them. Click the videos on screen and let's keep walking this path together.